I had just sat down with a plate of overcooked chicken and microwaved green beans when my mom dropped the bomb. You need to move out. By Friday. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. I looked up at her across the table, thinking maybe I'd misheard, but she didn't blink. My name's Darren. I'm 32 years old. I live in Alton, Illinois, a quiet river town outside St. Louis. I've worked tech support at the same aerospace plant since I was 23. Same blue polo every day, same desk, same paycheck. After the housing crash, I stayed in the house I grew up in, helped my folks keep it together, paid the bills when they couldn't, replaced the roof, put in a new HVAC with my own tax return. This house wasn't just mine, it was ours. Or so I thought. I'm sorry, what? I asked. My voice came out low, automatic. My mom stabbed a bean with her fork. The house is going to Evan. He's moving back. We've decided. She didn't even look up. My dad sat across from me, hands on the table, eyes glued to his plate like the damn thing would disappear if he looked away. He didn't say a word. I could feel my heartbeat in my jaw. What do you mean it's going to Evan? When was this decided? It's not up for debate, she said flatly. We've talked it over. You've had a good run here, but Evan's career has taken off. He needs the space. Evan, the golden boy. My younger brother who took off to Seattle 7 years ago and only called on birthdays, if that. He'd been working some sales job that magically turned into executive leadership. I hadn't even seen him in over a year. 2 days? I said. You're kicking me out in 2 days? She sighed. Don't make this dramatic. You're a grown man. You'll land on your feet. My dad finally spoke. One sentence. It's what's best for the family. That was it. That's all I got. After 9 years of patching drywall and covering overdue property taxes, I got a 2-day eviction and a shrug. I pushed my chair back slowly, stood up without a word, and walked down the hallway to my room. My legs moved without feeling. I shut the door, locked it, and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just stared at the phone in my hand, not panicking, just thinking. They really thought I'd walk out of here quiet. I didn't sleep that night, just laid there, staring at the ceiling, playing that dinner over and over again, like some twisted movie I couldn't shut off. By morning, I felt numb, not tired, just hollow. I walked out of my room, quiet. My parents were still asleep. The house was still. Cold in that way a place gets when you know something's ending. I stepped into the hallway and let my hand drag along the wall. That drywall? I patched it myself, the year my dad slipped on ice and broke his wrist. Working full-time and still coming home to water-damaged ceilings and flickering lights. Every fix I made, I told myself it was temporary. Just holding things together until they could get back on their feet. That never happened. It all really started the winter. I found a yellow envelope shoved behind the toaster. Foreclosure notice. I was 26. The power had already been shut off once that year. My mom was crying in the kitchen, whispering to her sister on speakerphone about how it wasn't fair. My dad just kept saying it'd work itself out. I remember grabbing the letter and calling the mortgage company myself. I paid the full overdue balance with my savings. No hesitation. Just did it. I told myself it was the right thing. Family first. Besides, I still lived there. It made sense to help. That's how it starts, right? One emergency becomes a pattern. Next thing I knew, I was covering gas, electric, water, internet. Not because they asked, but because no one else was going to. I set up autopay from my own account. I didn't even tell them half the time. And then came the repairs. The furnace quit in the middle of January. I spent my bonus on a new one. The roof started leaking. I patched it myself, then paid contractors to re-shingle it the next spring. Kitchen sink clogged. I was under there at midnight with a wrench and a flashlight. I even redid the guest bathroom, floor to ceiling, out of pocket. That bathroom? Evan used it every time he was home, which meant Christmas every third year if we were lucky. He never chipped in, not once, never even offered. But man, my parents talked about him like he hung the moon. Evan's traveling for work again. Evan just got promoted. Did you see Evan's new apartment? He sent pictures. All while I was crawling under the house, fixing a busted pipe in February. He called maybe twice a year, usually when he needed something. I stopped picking up after a while. It was always the same, vague updates, quick call, then back to silence. But still, I didn't say anything. I just kept showing up. I told myself it mattered, that someone had to hold the place together, that loyalty meant something. I passed the living room and paused. That couch? Mine. Bought it after the old one collapsed under Dad during a Bears game. Coffee table, too. Most of the furniture in this house, all replaced by me, piece by piece, while they nodded and thanked me like I was a neighbor doing them a favor. It hit me then. This was never about gratitude. It was never about shared ownership. I was the stand-in, the placeholder until their real son came back, and I saw the pattern clear as day. My help was never praised like Evan's success. It was expected. I was the background, the support beam, the one who'd never leave so they didn't have to think too hard. I walked into the kitchen and stared out the back window. Fence, replaced, deck, restained, shed, rebuilt after a storm, tore half the roof off. I did that in the rain, alone. I told myself all this work was for family, for stability. But really, it was for a seat at the table. I thought loyalty meant I'd earned that. Turns out, they never planned on giving it to me. I grabbed my phone off the counter and walked straight outside. The air was cold, but I barely felt it. I stood in the driveway and called the only person who'd shoot straight with me, Ben. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, what's up, man?" I didn't ease into it. I think my parents just screwed me over. That got his attention. "Okay, talk to me." I laid it all out. Dinner last night, the 2-day eviction, everything I'd put into the house since we were 26 and still thought ramen was a meal. Ben was the type to take mental notes as you spoke. By the time I hit the part about Evan needing the space, he cut in. "Wait, who owns the house legally? Is your name on the title?" I blinked. "What? No, I never thought, I never needed to. It's the family house." "Right, but whose name is on paper?" I hesitated. "I guess, my parents." Ben exhaled hard. "Okay. Do you know if there's a will? Anything about inheritance?" "No idea. I always figured we'd talk about that someday, like when they were older." "Darren, they just tried to throw you out of the house you basically rebuilt. Someday was 5 years ago." He wasn't wrong. Ben worked in real estate law. He'd helped me review my lease once when my landlord was being shady. Saved me $500 and a court headache. I trusted him. He kept going. "Who owned the house before your parents?" "My mom's aunt, Aunt Margie. She died when we were in college." Ben paused. "Was there a will from her?" I frowned. "I don't know. I was like 20. I think they said she left the house to Mom, but I didn't see anything." "Something feels off. Mind if I look into county records? It might take a day or two." "Yeah, please. Do whatever you can." After we hung up, I went back inside and grabbed the old plastic bins from the closet under the stairs, the ones Mom never threw out. Dusty Christmas photos, baby shoes, report cards, that drawer full of random batteries and paper clips and keys that don't open anything anymore. I pulled out a thick manila folder marked House Docs, no dates on the front. I dumped it on the floor and started sorting through it. Water bills from 2009, a permit for replacing the porch railing, a handwritten receipt for roof repair in my dad's chicken scratch, my name listed at the bottom under paid by. I stared at that for a minute, didn't even remember writing the check. I kept digging and found an old envelope with Aunt Margie's name written in faded black ink. My stomach turned. Inside was a photo of her on the porch, me standing next to her, maybe 15 years old, holding a tray of lemonade. She had that big grin, missing a tooth in the back. I remembered that day. She'd pulled me aside later and said, "Someday this place will be yours. You take care of it like you take care of me." I thought she was just being sweet. I never asked if she meant it legally. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. My parents never talked much about how the house became theirs. It just was. I didn't question it. I never pushed. But maybe I should have. I picked up another photo, me and Evan on the back deck, him holding a beer like he couldn't wait to be anywhere else. He left 2 months after that photo was taken, called the house claustrophobic, said Mom and Dad needed to move on and not cling to the past. He never saw this place as home. He never earned it. I did, and now I was supposed to just hand it over? I set the photo down and looked around the living room. I'd stripped wallpaper in this room, fixed that squeaky board near the fireplace, even mounted the TV when Dad couldn't lift it. Every corner had my fingerprints. Something didn't add up, and I wasn't letting this go. My phone rang just after noon. Ben's name lit up the screen. He didn't waste time. "You sitting down?" he asked. That alone told me everything had changed. "I'm standing," I said. "Just say it." "I pulled the county records," he said. "There's a will, properly filed, signed, notarized, recorded. Your great-aunt left the house to you, not your parents, you." I didn't answer right away. I stared at the far wall like it had just shifted 6 inches to the left. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "They've been acting like it was theirs for years." "That's the problem," Ben said. "Legally, it never was. They were named as temporary caretakers until you turned 25. After that, full ownership transferred to you." My mouth went dry. "So you're saying this house has been mine the whole time?" "Yes," he said, "and they knew it. The paperwork shows they signed acknowledgments." I felt the floor under my feet again, but nothing else. Disbelief hit first, loud, sharp, almost funny. I let out a short laugh I didn't recognize. "You're sure?" I asked. "Like, 100% sure? I wouldn't call if I wasn't." Then confusion rushed in. A mess of thoughts all at once. Why didn't they tell me? Why let me pay for everything if it was already mine? Why act like I was some tenant crashing in their space? And then it landed. Hard. They knew. They had always known. Every weird look when I asked about paperwork. Every time my mom changed the subject when I brought up long-term plans. Every time my dad said, "We'll cross that bridge later," and then never crossed it. It all snapped into place. Ben kept talking, but I barely heard him. Something about next steps, about protecting myself. I stared at the family photos on the wall, my parents smiling, arms around Evan during one of his rare visits, me standing off to the side, camera in hand. The guilt suddenly made sense. The way my mom hovered whenever I mentioned money. The way my dad avoided eye contact when I fixed something major. They weren't grateful. They were nervous. They'd let me pour years of money and labor into a house they planned to take from me anyway. I felt my jaw tighten. Not rage, not yet. Something colder. "So what happens now?" I asked. "That's up to you," Ben said. "But you don't owe them silence, and you definitely don't owe them sacrifice." We hung up, and I stood there alone in the living room. The quiet felt different now, heavier, like the walls were holding their breath. I walked into my parents' bedroom without knocking. My mom was folding laundry. She flinched when she saw my face. "Did you know?" I asked. She froze, one sock half folded in her hands. "Knew what?" she said, too quick. "The will," I said. "Aunt Margie's will." Her shoulders dropped, just slightly. But enough. My dad stepped in behind her. He looked tired, older than he had yesterday. "You went digging," he said. "So you did know," I said. They didn't deny it. That was the part that burned. No fight, no shock, just silence. "You let me pay for everything," I said. "You let me think I was helping you. You let me believe this was shared." My mom pressed her lips together. "We didn't think it would matter. You lived here. You benefited too." I stared at her. "You planned to give it to Evan." She swallowed. "He needs it more." That was it. No apology. No explanation worth hearing. Everything lined up now. The praise Evan got for existing. The way my help was treated like background noise. They weren't confused. They were strategic. They assumed I'd keep carrying the weight because I always had. I stepped back into the hallway. The house didn't feel like an anchor anymore. It felt like a test I'd already passed and didn't need to retake. I thought about all the times I'd stepped in to fix their messes without being asked. All the checks I wrote so no one else had to feel uncomfortable. All the consequences I absorbed so they could keep pretending everything was fine. That version of me was done. I pulled my phone out again and scrolled to Ben's number. My thumb hovered for half a second. Then I tapped call. Ben picked up on the first ring. "You ready to move?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "It's time." He walked me through next steps. I needed a record of everything I'd paid for. Dates, receipts if I had them, photos. Even if I didn't take legal action right away, the list mattered. It proved the house wasn't just their home. It was built on my back. I spent the next 4 hours in work mode. I grabbed a notebook and started walking room to room. Living room, couch, entertainment center, TV, coffee table, all mine. Bought new when the old stuff collapsed or quit. I wrote it down with the model numbers and the months I bought them. Kitchen, fridge, microwave, blender, even the goddamn toaster. Master bedroom. I had replaced their bed frame during the pandemic when it cracked down the middle. Labeled it. Guest bath, full remodel, sink, vanity, light fixtures. I even had photos of that before and after on my phone. Pulled them up and added timestamps. The attic had boxes of tools I'd bought for home repairs. Downstairs had storage bins full of paint supplies, floor tiles, electrical stuff. I labeled every bin and marked them DF in Sharpie, my initials. I took pictures of everything. That night, I booked a same-week moving company. Rush job, no frills. They'd be there Thursday morning. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't need to. By the time Thursday came, I'd packed nearly every room that had my name on it. There were tape boxes lining the hallway, big labels on everything. It felt mechanical at first, just a task list. But once I started seeing the space empty out, it hit different. Control. That's what I felt. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. Around 11, I was outside marking which pieces would go on the first truck when Mrs. Wallace from next door walked up. She was holding a tray of brownies. "I saw the van," she said. "You moving out?" "Not exactly," I said. "Just taking what's mine." She looked over at the pile. "Good. About time. This place wouldn't have survived without you." She handed me the tray and walked back to her porch. That was it. No lecture, no gossip. Just quiet truth. Then the Thompsons from across the street waved as I carried out the second TV. Mr. Thompson gave me a thumbs up. We'd never been close, but he nodded like he'd been waiting years to see someone finally take a stand. The movers arrived just after noon. 2 guys in navy sweatshirts and jeans. I walked them through what to load and what to leave. They didn't ask questions. I appreciated that. Box after box, shelf after shelf. The place emptied. The sound changed. Every time they walked across the floor, it echoed a little louder. By evening, most of the living room and kitchen were bare. No TV, no couch, no kitchen stools. My dad stood in the hallway watching as they took the last load from the garage. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. I didn't know him words. By 7, I was sitting on the floor of my room, now stripped to bare walls and a mattress. I still had one more night there, one more night in a house that wasn't theirs to give away. But something had shifted. The house didn't pull at me anymore. They wanted me erased. So I gave them exactly what they asked for. Everything I brought in, I took out. The next morning, I was in the kitchen packing the last drawer of tools when I heard a car door slam out front. Then fast footsteps on the porch. No knock. Just the door flying open like he owned the place. Evan. He stood there in some designer jacket, one of those smug travel bags slung over his shoulder. His eyes scanned the empty living room. No TV, no furniture, just scuffed floors and pale spots where frames used to hang. "What the hell happened?" he said. I didn't answer right away. I let him look. He walked in slowly, like maybe this was a prank and someone would jump out yelling, "Gotcha!" any second. "Where's the couch?" he asked. Why is this place gutted?" I picked up the wrench off the counter and tossed it into the last bin. I took my stuff. He blinked, confused. "Your stuff? You emptied half the house." "What do you mean your stuff?" I straightened up and faced him. "I paid for it. I fixed it. I replaced it. All of it." His voice went sharp. "You're just taking everything because your pissed mom told you to move out?" I almost laughed. "You're here 2 minutes and already acting like you're the victim." He dropped his bag on the floor. "I was told the house would be ready. That's why I flew in early." "You were told wrong," I said. "Also, it's not yours, or theirs." He crossed his arms. "It's not yours either. They've lived here for decades." "No," I said calmly. "Aunt Margie left it to me. There's a will, filed, legal. I own this house." That shut him up. He stared at me like I just told him the sky was green. "That's not possible. Why wouldn't they tell me that?" "Maybe ask them," I said. "While you're at it, ask them why they kept it from me too. Why they let me fix every inch of this place while planning to hand it off to you." His face tightened. "You always had a chip on your shoulder. You never left town, never took risks. You think fixing toilets earns you the house?" "I think showing up earns more than disappearing for 7 years and expecting a handout," I said. "You want to talk about risks? Try draining your paycheck for a decade to keep your parents from losing their home. then find out they plan to give it away behind your back. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling Mom. Go ahead. He stepped outside, pacing on the porch. I didn't care what he said. Let him twist it. Let them all scramble now. 5 minutes later, he came back in, holding the phone out toward me. She wants to talk to you. No. Darren, stop being a baby and take the call. I looked him dead in the eye. You're not in charge here. You never were. He scoffed. You think this changes anything? They'll fix this. You'll come to your senses. No, I said. I already did. He stood there a moment, like he expected me to apologize, or maybe hand him the keys out of guilt. When I didn't move, he finally grabbed his bag and turned toward the door. This isn't over, he said. Sure it is, I replied. You just didn't see it coming. He stormed out without another word. The door slammed. The house echoed. And just like that, Evan was gone again. After Evan slammed that door, I packed the last of my things and left the house for good. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I drove straight to Ben's apartment in Edwardsville and crashed on his couch. By the next morning, my phone was a war zone. 15 missed calls, 10 voicemails, dozens of texts, all from my parents. Mom, we need to talk. Evan says you're being unreasonable. Dad, you're making a mistake. This isn't what she wanted. Mom again, call me back now. I didn't reply to a single one. Instead, I handed everything to Ben. He had already pulled the legal documents. The will was airtight. Margie's intentions were clear. I was the heir, not my mother, not the both of them, just me. Ben didn't waste time. He filed a motion to enforce the will. We sent official letters to my parents' attorney, if they had one, and to Evan. The message was simple: back off or face a court that wouldn't look kindly on fraud and concealment. Meanwhile, I listed the house. I had it cleaned professionally, fixed the trim in the hallway, took updated photos, and signed with a local agent Ben trusted. We priced it right and moved fast. Within 2 weeks, a retired couple from Springfield put in a full cash offer. They wanted to downsize, said the house had good bones. I smiled and signed the papers. Ben handled the closing. I never stepped foot inside again. A week later, my parents came back. They must have assumed the dust had settled, that I'd cooled off. Maybe they thought I'd feel guilty. Instead, they pulled into the driveway and found a moving truck out front, and 2 strangers holding keys. The husband introduced himself as Harold. He said my parents looked lost. They told me they used to live here, he said on the phone later. I figured they were old friends. They weren't friends. They were squatters who thought they'd waltz back in and pick up where they left off. That night, my mom finally got me on the phone. I only answered because I wanted it done. Her voice was tight. You sold the house? Without even telling us? I stood in Ben's kitchen, staring out the window. It wasn't yours. It was our home. No, I said. It was Margie's. Then it was mine. You just pretended it was yours long enough to try handing it off to Evan. She didn't respond right away. Then came the shift, just like always. We were trying to do what's best for the family. You overreacted. We were going to talk it out. I almost laughed. You gave me 2 days to get out. There was no talk. You made your move. I made mine. You're punishing us for something that happened years ago. No, I said. I'm holding you accountable. My dad got on the line. You didn't have to go this far, son. You didn't have to sell it. I clenched my jaw. You let me pay for everything. You signed legal papers saying the house was mine, then tried to erase that like I'd never existed. So yeah, I did have to. He tried the old tone, the wounded, reasonable father voice. You think this fixes anything? You think this was right? No, I said. I think it was necessary. Silence. Then my mom again, her voice colder. Evan doesn't have a place to stay. He quit his lease assuming the house would be ready. That's on you, not me. You're breaking this family apart. No, I said. You already did that. I'm just done pretending it didn't happen. She sniffed like she was crying, but I'd seen that trick too many times to fall for it again. We raised you. We gave you everything. You used me, I said, and now it's over. I hung up before she could say another word. Ben walked in from the hallway, holding 2 beers. He didn't ask what was said, just handed one to me and sat down. I took a long drink, then exhaled. I'd lost a family, but I'd finally found my line. Ben headed to bed after we finished our beers. I stayed up a little longer, scrolling apartment listings on my phone. Found one about 20 minutes from the plant. Ground floor, 1 bedroom, nothing fancy. Hardwood floors, washer and dryer, in unit. It had a small patio, which for me was enough. I signed the lease that weekend and moved in 2 days later. It was quiet, clean. Nobody yelling down the hallway. No silent treatment at dinner. No expectation that I'd fix something for free. The first night there, I ate takeout on the floor. No couch, no table, just me and a cheap folding chair. And still, I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't block my parents, but I stopped replying. The calls slowed down eventually, then stopped. Evan never reached out, not even once after that last showdown. I figured he was too embarrassed, or too entitled to think he should apologize. Either way, I didn't care. I went back to work full-time, picked up a few overtime shifts to rebuild my savings. The manager offered me a promotion a few weeks later, training lead for the new guys. I took it without thinking. For the first time in a long time, my decisions weren't built around anyone else. Around town, the story got out. Mrs. Wallace knew. The Thompsons knew. Word spread like it always does in places like Alton. People stopped looking at me like the son who'd never left. Now I was the guy who saved a house, then gave it up rather than be screwed over. A few neighbors mentioned my parents in passing. Tight-lipped, quiet, more judgment than sympathy. "They really did you wrong," Mr. Thompson said once, shaking his head at the post office. "You didn't deserve that." No, I didn't. As for Evan, I heard through someone at the gym that he moved into some overpriced short-term rental while looking for investment property. Without the house to lean on, he was burning cash fast. Maybe that sales gig wasn't as solid as they all made it sound. Did I feel bad? No, I felt honest. I'd spent most of my adult life thinking loyalty meant silence, that keeping peace meant swallowing resentment. But silence didn't protect me. It made me easier to use. Now, distance was my peace. I stopped checking my voicemail. I took a walk every evening after work, earbuds in, playlists blasting. I stopped worrying about whose needs came first. That version of me, the helper, the fixer, the dependable one who never pushed back, he didn't live here anymore. The loss still hit sometimes, like when I drove past the old street on my way to the grocery store, or when I caught myself thinking, Dad would like this movie, then remembering I hadn't seen him in months. I missed the idea of family more than the reality, but regret, that never showed up. I'd traded dysfunction for clarity. I could live with that. My alarm went off at 6:15, just like always. I brewed my own coffee, the way I liked it. Strong, no sugar. The apartment was quiet, warm, and exactly how I left it the night before. Nobody needed anything. Nothing was broken. No one was waiting in the hallway with some new crisis disguised as a favor. It had been 5 months since I moved in. The place finally felt like mine. The couch was the same one from the old house, but here it looked better, more grounded. The TV sat on my entertainment center. Nothing missing, nothing borrowed. My photos hung where I wanted them, not to fill a space, but to claim one. I worked my shifts, paid my rent early, picked up groceries when I felt like cooking, takeout when I didn't. I didn't ask for permission or approval. I didn't have to justify anything I spent or explain why I didn't answer the phone. Freedom didn't come loud. It came in small moments, like folding laundry without hearing someone sigh behind me, or coming home and not bracing for a guilt trip. I still thought about them. That never stopped. Some nights I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if my mom still told herself I overreacted. If Evan was still out there trying to land on his feet. If my dad regretted staying silent. But the difference now? I didn't carry it. I let it exist without letting it define me. People talk about boundaries like they're fences. Mine weren't fences. They were concrete, unmovable, clear, built from everything I'd learned the hard way. I wasn't the fixer anymore, not the backup plan, not the loyal son waiting for a thank you that would never come. I chose me, finally, and I wasn't going back. Thank you for being with us. Don't miss our new stories. They're coming soon. If you haven't yet, please leave a like and follow the page to see more great content. Your support means a lot to us and motivates us to create even more warm, meaningful stories. See you next time. Take care and stay curious.